Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ash. I wanted to kind of be a little more personal than I usually am and show you guys some stuff and reminisce a little bit. So, as the title might or may not imply, I have with me today a box of toys, knickknacks, game pieces, cards, and other things that I retrieved from my brother and his house, formerly my mom's house. My mom passed away a couple of years ago, and I didn't really take any time to go and retrieve any of the toys and stuff that I had, but my brother actually contacted me and invited me to come pick up the stuff that I had amassed as a child and as an adolescent. And I'm very thankful for that. It was much more than just this box, just to be clear. There was a lot of stuff that I went through, a few totes worth. I guess really not all that much in retrospect, but I certainly didn't want to keep very much of it moving forward. I consider all of that part of my life pretty much done, chapters closed, no closure needed, it's all over with. But there were some pretty cool things in here that I thought I might grab, and I'll talk about some of the memories and stuff that I have of this stuff. The first thing I'm taking out of here is this Goosebumps card game. It's a storytelling card game, and it's definitely seen some years. 54 cards that make up a story, but it's never the same twice. On your turn, repeat the story the others have created so far and add it with a card from your hand. And if you goof, you're out. Pretty simple concept, but I really like this concept. So, Goosebumps cards, standard playing card size. You'll all get cards, and the first player will put down like a vampire, and they'll tell a quick story about a vampire. So then you'll follow with a card from your hand, and if that card happens to be chains, you'll kind of repeat roundabout the story that was told and incorporate how your chains go into the story. This will be sequential, I suppose, or you could link it very closely. And then the next player, their card, say if it's the midnight clock, will talk about the vampire in their introduction, and then how the chains were incorporated, and then the midnight clock was incorporated into that. It's a pretty cool concept, and it's really simple, and it's really kid-friendly, and it's a very nostalgic thing to have. So I'm really glad that I was able to retrieve this from my brother. Now, we'll move on. When I was a kid growing up in Texas, I was a big fan of Mighty Max. Kind of a big fan of the cartoon, but not really so much as I was a fan of the toys. The toys fascinated me. Everything that was super small, this size, fascinated me. Miniatures fascinated me. I thought the Mighty Max toys were super cool. I have a number as well of these MUS CLE toys, and I never knew what to call these. I never knew what they were. I don't remember ever seeing original packaging for any of them. I came across most of these in different bags of toys at different yard sales and the like. People basically just gave them away because they were practically worthless to them. So I amassed these little guys at flea markets, and they were always immediately recognizable because of their color and their similar pose and scale. And over time, I got quite a few. Nowhere near like an impressive collection or anything, but just enough to kind of be like, yeah, I collect those things, whatever they are. I had no way of looking up to see what they were called. Even after getting the internet around the age of, I don't know, 12, 13, and looking this stuff up, I still wasn't completely able to find out what they were until a couple of years ago when I found out that they were MUSCLE. And first, I went through all of these different combinations of terms, like I thought maybe they were Monster in My Pocket. Absolutely not. Monster in My Pocket, completely different. Completely different. Some of the games that my brother and I used to play were these LCD screens. These Tiger Electronics, I have no idea if any of these work anymore. Haven't tried to put a battery in or buy watch batteries. for that matter. But these games, which were made, I think, by Tiger, weren't they? Weren't they? Yeah, they were made by Tiger. These are called Sticks games. And this series of games are just like stick-shaped controllers, and they have different functions. So this one here is called Shark Bite, and it's one out of, I think, 5 or 6 different games. And we had most of them, but you'll control a little shark. And this little control on this side allows you to swim faster because this represents the shark's tail. I don't know why my camera can't stay in focus. I'm gonna lock the focus here. And then this one allows you to swim up and down, and you're basically trying to avoid obstacles. And you can also hit the eat button to eat some of the flotsam that's coming your way, or little fish or whatnot. Then there was Trick Shot Pool. Probably one of the more fun pool games I've played because it was consistent every single time. You have your on-off, your start aim, and then you've got a way to pop. Actually, I don't know what the term is for when you take your pool stick and knock it into the ball. But you can do that here, and you can simulate. And I, for some reason, thought that you were supposed to be able to, I guess you push this button to aim it, and then you can hit that to actually knock the balls. I don't remember anything about it, but I must have liked it very much. And then this is one of my favorite ones. It's called Clobber, and it's a fighting game. And I can't remember how you hold it like this. I can tell because of the graphics on the back, but you can move your fighter up, down, left, right, jumping. And you hit this button to attack, I believe. So I think you play it like this. And this game, you could have a maximum score of 990 points, I think it was. And you could only achieve that maximum score if you had round 3 with the fighters that you were fighting. So you'd have to lose one of your matches, but you'd have to gain the maximum amount of points in that match and then lose in order to achieve that high score. There are a lot of other toys in here, one of which is like, I think these things were called maybe Centurions or Exo Squad. I always forget. I've looked them up. I had to do a Google image search to look them up. But I loved how these guys looked. I don't remember how I acquired them. I think I bought them brand new. And loved the idea of putting a person in the suit. And they did indeed all come with people, small scale figurines that would go in here and get strapped in. Didn't really like the cartoon that much, but I did love these robot figures very much. They looked so cool. You would think that I'd be much, much more into Gundam than I am because of my love for mobile suits like this. But I guess I don't like the Gundams quite as much as these. So like Front Mission, Mech Warrior, huge fan of these kinds of mechs. And I have special memories of this one in particular. I've got more Mighty Max stuff. This is from a larger Mighty Max playset that I unfortunately do not have anymore. Don't know what happened to it. All of these guys are Mighty Max monsters. I recognize these anywhere, but my goodness, they make for such cool minis, especially this guy. He is so cool. I don't know what it is. I just love the design of this little dude. This guy. This cage is just an elevator. It's got a spot on it where it was able to actionably move up and down in the playset that it was a part of. And I'm going to tell you how I use these guys. There's Norman. He was also from Mighty Max. We have this dude and this dude also from Mighty Max. Pretty sure both of them were. So when I was younger, I used to play games with my brother. We would play games all the time. We would play with my toys. We would play with his stuffed animals. We would play video games. He had the N64. I had the PlayStation. We would play with toys that I had from my childhood. And we would oftentimes create our own games, wherein one of us was like the player and the other one was just orchestrating all the stuff, putting out all the instruments of enemies and the dice rolls, which I had a lot of dice back then, various kinds. We've got a bat dice in here from a Goosebumps board game. I believe that's what that's from. Actually, this is not from a Goosebumps game. This is a separate kind of game where you would roll the dice and then hang different colored bats, I think. The object of the game was to make sure that the whole thing didn't come toppling down. But I wanted to talk a bit about the games that we would play, because in these games, we would use these little figures. This is before I really had access to a lot of miniatures. We had one miniature store that I went to it exactly one time, miles and miles away. Miniatures were like, I don't know, $3 for a blister pack, $2 for a blister pack of pewter miniatures, and I'm talking Warhammer Fantasy. And I had no idea what any of that stuff was back then. I just knew that Warhammer itself was too expensive, and I couldn't get into it. Look at this little Street Fighter dude. This is Ryu. He's missing his arm, though. And here's Sagat. He's not missing anything. I don't know where I got these guys. I don't remember what they came in at all. All these Goosebumps kids I took, these Goosebumps playing pieces. This little guy came from a slightly larger, I think, exoskeleton playset, or maybe it was like a little space rover. You could stick him in there and play with him driving around. These guys, I think, came with McDonald's meals. I got a couple different colors of these dudes. Could be wrong about that. I think these guys were for McDonald's meals. I have a couple of them. Really cool looking robots. This is one of them. I have the name. I can do a Google image search and get the name. They all look really cool, but we used these pieces as various enemies, and there were a couple of games in particular that I played. I'm going to say four games in particular that I remember crafting meticulously, and one above all was more detailed than all of the rest. One above all, I put the most amount of work into, the most amount of ambition, and so on. Look at this little treasure chest. It's covered in like lint or something. I have no idea where I got it. Jewelry to represent different artifacts that the player would pick up in the game, and so on. And before I talk about those games, I'm going to show you this Pro 200, this little video game console. It still works. I don't want to turn it on because it's really, really hard to turn off once I turn it on. But it's got 200 games in one. And what it really is, I think it's just like 10 games, but it's 20 different variations, modes of play for each game. So it's like just play forever, play till you get to a certain score, play till you get to a certain score, and then you play again, but it goes faster, that sort of stuff. Very cheap on how they describe variations. Power cards, Spawn, the definitive superpower collectible card game. I had a couple of these. I got the starter cards in this deck, and then I had a slightly larger deck that I got during a trip to Florida, a little family trip to Florida. I had larger, like almost tarot-sized cards that were for gaming. They were about these different stats and bringing down. Hi, Angela. God, I loved Spawn. I still love Spawn. Spawn's awesome. But man, I was a huge fan of the Spawn comics. I loved collecting back issues of Spawn. I got into it around issue, I don't know, between 12 and 20, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, my mission was to collect all the back issues, and I did. I got all the back issues. I was so excited to go to my comic store and get Spawn #1 for like 25 bucks. I was ecstatic to continue reading it throughout the years. As an adult, I am happy to have several of the hardcover Spawn collections. And I love seeing that the comic is still going. I have no idea what it's about anymore. I've resolved to one day read all of it all over again from the beginning. I no longer have any of the paperback, like actual comics, but I do have the hardcovers. And that's like the direction that I'll go for any comics that I want to read. I'll just buy hardcover collections, reprints. Love the old comics and the advertisements inside of them and all that stuff, but you know, it's fine. I used to write stuff like this and draw stuff like this on these little papers all the time. All I did was make game rules and games and key items and stuff to try to get this into workable games that I could play with my brother, with the idea that someday I'd be able to make my own video game out of it. I loved the idea that I might be able to do that one day. And I can. And I'm doing completely different stuff now. But anyways, one of the games that I made, that I played with my brother, I think I called it Hideaki Kiseichu, something like that. It's what I thought was Japanese for parasite warriors or something like that. And I was inspired by Ronin Warriors at the time, which was airing on Toonami. But you had all of these characters, which, let's see if I can find who I used. I had one of these Goosebumps ladies I named May, I think. And then I had a larger dude that served as like the muscle of the group. No idea which one that would have been. And then I had a dude that was just like your hot-headed main character samurai dude. And once my brother had recruited these 3 people, he'd go around capturing monsters. And this was inspired a bit by Pokemon, I think, but this might have been a little bit before then. This might have been around the time that we were playing stuff like, I was playing Jade Cocoon on the PlayStation, on the first PlayStation. So I think I was inspired more by that than a lot of other things. But I had these little dudes pop up on maps, which incidentally, I would build out using Jenga blocks. And if this sounds silly, remember, we didn't have access to a bunch of like printable character sheets and dungeon terrain. This was how it was done. It was imagination, 100%. You like my transparent Ghostbusters monsters? Yeah. I've always been a fan of these. These guys in particular, I was always a fan of. The way that the Goosebumps, the Ghostbusters action figures worked with these guys, I thought that was always so cool. Not sure if this is a Goosebumps. God, why do I keep saying that? I'm not sure if this is a Ghostbusters one or not. I think it is. I think this is the one that grabs Ray by the face. I could be wrong. Anyways, continuing on. The Parasite Knights, Parasite Samurai, Parasite Ronin, whatever it was. They would travel the land, uncovering this deeper plot by this sort of shogunate who was trying to take over, or the son of the emperor at that time, assassinated his father to usurp the throne. And he was going after this primal power that was protected in these towers by these guys. And your characters would get more of these summon them in battle. And your characters also had their own attacks, I believe. So you had your characters, they had special armor that was actually parasitic, and it had its own power. And then they had little monsters that they could summon. And it was awesome. It was super awesome, in my opinion. He made it to the very end of that, and I put all kinds of mini games in, all kinds of ways to get more gold, armor, level up, things like that. And we used the Jenga blocks as sort of like a way to mark off boundaries. Sometimes I would build flooring, and that would be like the island that the characters would be on. I'd put monsters all around the map. I'd have my brother like choose who he wanted to go fight and when, what NPCs to talk to, and so on. Next, we had a game that was ambitious that I put together called Lance the Jerk. And Lance the Jerk, it used, by the way, I looked these guys up. I never had this playset, but I had parts of this playset because I found them, I think, at a secondhand shop. But it was a lot of these guys, these large bearded fellows, and a lot of these little knights. It's kind of a army versus army kind of playset. But I saw these and I'm like, ooh, medieval, dark ages, yeah, heck yeah. And Lance the Jerk was about this knight named Lance I tried to make all kinds of puns with all the different characters and stuff I had. And he'd travel the land with his dog slash wolf, I don't remember. And it was very satirical fantasy. All the characters who would join your team were plays on words or puns or something. Hey, it's Guile or Guile? Guile? I don't remember how to say his name, and I don't care. And it was basically just a medieval European fantasy satire. You'd go and take down magic users and various bosses that were very archetypal of RPG bosses at the time, and have folks join your team. Yeah, I rather played that. He seemed to be a big fan of Lance the Jerk. I had Lance the Jerk 2 and Lance the Jerk 3. Then, trying to remember, I said I had 4, but I'm only remembering a third one right now. And that was one that starred these 2 boys. And I had drawn all over the face of this one, gave him sort of a ink painted face because I wanted him to be like a kabuki sort of warrior. A kid kabuki. I don't know. Somehow that was part of the martial arts that he knew. And I called this manganime, which was an amalgamation of manga and anime. And manganime. This was the main character. These kids were from China. His name is Yu. And then as a joke, his friend's name was Pu. But after the joke, I decided, the name stuck, and I wanted it to be serious. So he was no longer a joke character, although these 2 were inspired a bit by Goemon and Ebisumaru from the Goemon's Great Adventures / Go-Go Goemon / Mystical Ninja series of games. But anyways, these kids are out playing in the fields, and this robot that I mentioned I had an attachment to in the last video, I would call the manganime robot. He crash landed in a meteor, the details of which I will not disclose at this time. But this landed near the kids, threw them back, and because it was a space meteor, it gave them special powers. And when the robot came out, there was a special weapon that I got from a quarter toy machine, which was a yin-yang plastic ball. I mean, it was just a ball with the yin-yang symbol drawn all over it. And I called this the manganime ball. So every time this ball received any sort of impact, was hit, punched, bounced, or whatever, it would have the capability of throwing all of the collected energy that it had back out. So basically, you'd hit it a whole bunch and then throw it, and then when it hit the opponent, all of the force of all of the hits that you gave it would transfer into the opponent. So the battle system was very unique, and it wasn't totally fleshed out, but basically there was a lot of measuring. There was a lot of, here's your characters, here's the ball. Go and attack the ball's energy level raises up, but it also bounces, so it falls away. So your characters have to kind of play this game, kind of like a sport, where they're hitting this ball back and forth, and then when the ball hits the enemy, and I don't know how the ball can tell the difference between friend and foe. I wasn't thinking it through. I was just a teenager. Okay, cut me some slack. Then all of the energy stored in the ball would drain out, and that much health would be taken out of the enemy. This was just the first boss. There were 3 volumes of story that I wrote for these characters, and I still have access to some of that. And I loved this story so much that I created a hyper-futuristic version, and I created another version that was supposed to take place long before this, because this was actually supposed to be taking place in the present. So, if you couldn't tell by the robot. The past version featured a half vampire, who I didn't want to call a Dhampir. I was loath to say. They might have been a full vampire even, I don't remember now, named Shen. And he was a swordsman who lived in China. And the futuristic version had people who were part of a global team who built towers all over the earth so that they could utilize some kind of electromagnetic energy that they'd found in order to forcefully move the planet out of orbit and get it away from the sun because the sun was dying. That was my storyline summary for that. And I wrote 3 long blocks of story for each of these 3 overall, I don't know what to call them. They weren't quite books, but like a book 1, book 2, and book 3 of each series, basically. And then I did one more one-part story, which was set in the future of the futuristic one. Yeah, I remember details of this stuff fairly well, and I have the stuff wrote down in places in case I ever want to go back to writing this stuff seriously or making it into a game seriously. I think it would be a lot of fun. But yeah, every time I look at these toys, I think about those times I spent playing on the floor of my room upstairs with my brother. And a lot of the times he would give me the controls verbally. He'd be like, move over there, go over there. And I'd move the character for him. And I'd even have like, where here's a ball rolling at your character. And he'd be like, jump. And I'd jump. And if he got the timing right, his character would clear the ball. That's how we had fun a lot of the times as kids growing up. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this very odd, very random assortment of stuff. What was this one? Plugger? I don't remember this one. Is this? I think this is like a Tetris clone. Yeah, having trouble remembering this one. I don't remember Plugger. Huh, I'll have to look this one up. Or better yet, find some watch batteries and see if these things still work. But anyways, really makes me want to get back into Mighty Max and get on eBay and collect all of the different Mighty Max heads that open up and come up with it. Just to be completely honest, it makes me want to go to my brother's house and say, let's play some games and start this process up all over again. Yeah, I don't think that would go over well. But yeah, thanks very much. If you watched this far, love to hear what some of your childhood memories are. How did you find fun? Did you have times where only your imagination could really get you through the day? And did your imagination and what little you had, not that this is little, this is actually a privileged amount of stuff, especially compared to the stuff I rejected and didn't take with me. But did it get you through tough times? I know my stuff did. And for that, that's my nostalgia. That is that for which I will be eternally grateful. And probably a key part of why I love 90s toys and miniatures and gaming and want others to see this in similar lights. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next exciting adventure. And until then, hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Onward for now, brave heroes.